Google's cloud gaming platform Stadia just refuses to die and go away. And we have the answers why. See, as Stadia sees big engagement boost after 2-year anniversary, is SDO Daily, baby. Let's get into this one. What's up, people? What's up, people? What's up, people? It is your boy, MM2K of PNTS Network and StadiaDosage, here with another SDO Daily. Can you do us a huge favor? Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and rock those bells for notifications, please, so you know when we're dropping these doses. We appreciate all of y'all straight up. Y'all know the deal, y'all know the reason, and by now y'all should know the slogan. We are not too proud to ask. Let's get into it. All right, so before we get into this one, I want to break this up into 3 parts. First and foremost, I want to give you the story. I want to talk about the evidence that supports what we're talking about here, the overall theme that Stadia just is growing and it's not going anywhere. And lastly, we want to give you our conclusion to all this evidence in the story and so forth. So first and foremost, let's start with the story. Now, despite me doing a show with one of the smartest people that I feel I've ever met on the planet, a guy by the name of Jack Deslett, we do a show on this channel called The Number Show for Stadia. We do it once a month, where Jack just does this fantastic job of extrapolating data and really showing the viewer how Stadia, you know, even though it's in a small cloud gaming sector, how it's really making an upward trajectory towards the core audience that it's targeting, right? Despite having all this data and all these magnificent methods to really crystallize it and bring that fact home for people, people still think to the contrary that Stadia, or they did think at least, that Stadia was dying out. Now, this was due, I want to say in large part, to the platform not getting the next iteration of NBA 2K22, then not growing to an Xbox/PlayStation presence in regards to snatching every new game that was being released. And lastly, how can we forget about the closure of SG&E, which people didn't understand what Stadia's pivot was and why that was no longer a critical role as far as making their own individual games as far as future success for Stadia. Nonetheless, after the 2-year anniversary, gamers started to see that maybe there is something to this platform and it shouldn't be counted out just yet. Now, what is the evidence to this showing? Well, I want to say first and foremost, we've shown you so much stuff over these 2 years, right? To help try to bring this point home. You know what I mean? And you know how we do. We're going to show it to you again. Let me show you something. We started off showing you a message from Jack Buser in an interview. And at the time, Jack Buser was the head of games. And this message was detailing a long-term type of rollout/recognition of the product that Stadia themselves understood would have to take place. And that rollout would take years. When being asked, what are you going to do about people having already a PlayStation or an Xbox library? How are you going to convince them Stadia day one to come over and try this thing and abandon those catalogs? Jack was like, whoa. We never said that was our approach. This is a direct quote from him. He says, the same device that you are using, meaning currently the PlayStation, the Xbox, or the PC, certainly has better and more rich game experiences. That will take time to play out, because gamers will have to realize, oh my gosh, Stadia has improved so much from years ago. I can't believe I'm still using the same screen. But that's the third piece. And this was made in, I believe, May of 2019, several months before Stadia even launched. So Stadia themselves were in recognition that this would take some time. And we've also talked about Phil Harrison, who also did an interview with Eurogamer, and he sat down with Maj Bakar of Google, and where they talked about Stadia being a place where watching and playing games is merged, just not simply a platform that's out here to buck with PlayStation and Xbox day one. Let me show you something else. This is an excerpt from that interview. He says Phil Harrison says it's not a game system. It's not a console. Contrary to rumors, we are not entering the console business at all. Actually, the point of our platform is that we are not a console. It's a place to gather. It's not about marketing a device or being device-centric in our thinking. We are not making a box. We're making a place. It's a place where you can have different types of game experiences, whether you're watching, playing, and participating, whether you're being entertained, or whether you are the one doing the entertaining. All that being joined together into one idea, very inclusive, hopefully over time expanding to include the broad set of gamers that we can possibly imagine today, scaling into the future and supporting every type of game, from input modalities to fundamental game types and styles that you can experience. Now, what does that all mean? Well, let me help break that down in layman's terms, right? So here's a tweet that I sent out the other day where I tell people you're going to want to watch this space. And what space is that? A guy by the name of Jake Lukey, or not Jake Lukey, but Ludwig, who was famous on Twitch, has officially left Twitch and he has joined YouTube Gaming. And in doing so, he put out this clever little skit right here to showcase him leaving Twitch to go to YouTube. It's supposed to be a big streamer, you know what I mean? So with that being said, if you can imagine Ludwig in the future saying, hey, look guys, I'm playing Battlefield 3052, right? And I'm gonna allow 5 of my viewers to hop in on this game and enjoy it with me. You have now torn down that wall between the content creator and the content viewer. And that's only going to be made possible on YouTube with streamers like Ludwig via Google Stadia, okay? This is the place that Phil Harrison and Maj Bakar were talking about in that interview with Eurogamer, all right? So hopefully that makes sense on why coming out of the box and battling PlayStation and Xbox just was not in Google's game plan. Now, we've seen naysayer publications also give up on their consistent rhetoric. And instead of trying to foretell Stadia's fate of disaster and doom and gloom, they have now opted to a more pessimistic wait and see approach. And believe it or not, that still undoubtedly is an upgrade. You know what I mean? One such approach came from our good friends at GameIndustry.biz. For some reason, Stadia just rubs them the wrong way. So they haven't always been the greatest stewards of information like they normally are when it comes to reporting Stadia. However, Stadia had a keynote address, I want to say in around July of 2021. And in that keynote, they addressed a lot of long-term things, right? That really just put an X over all of the naysayer doom and gloom about Stadia retail not being something that Google is working towards. And then because of that Stadia keynote, this is what Game Industry, again, those that are not the biggest fans of Stadia, had to say. Let me show you something else. This is an excerpt from a GameIndustry.biz article directly after that keynote was given, and they said, the continued promotion of these features, the new wave of incentives to get more developers on board as pro partners, and that 85-15 revenue share lasting until 2023 suggests that the perceived inevitable failure of Stadia might not be as imminent as some people think, end quote. So hopefully now people better understand what really Stadia is all about, how groundbreaking it is, and the fact that it's using its grassroots marketing to do something over a long-term basis. It's not to be something that's to battle PlayStation or Xbox out of the box. And now that we've examined that and hopefully shed light on that whole situation as it relates to Stadia, now we can talk about the results. Let me show you something else. This is a tweet from that same individual, Jack Deslett, Mr. Extrapolator, who does something every Sunday, puts out Sunday Stadia stats. And in his latest iteration, he says Sunday Stadia stats, a huge week for Stadia growth, and he dropped it out there on Reddit. So let's take a look at what he put out there. He said it's been a great week of growth for Stadia. You can check all the metrics that we track at stadiastats.jdeslip.com. One way to see the community growth is on this very subreddit. He says the Dirt 5 leaderboard, which Dirt 5 just recently became a Stadia Pro game, which is part of its monthly subscription, continues to grow at well over 1,000 new Stadians a day since going free on Pro. It passed the 50,000 mark this week. Rayman Legends released just 5 days ago, but it also has a global leaderboard that is already in the thousands. These are both games that just recently released a few days prior to us recording this, or recently went into Stadia Pro within the same month. Stadia has been pretty active on Instagram as well, and he shows you a chart for the Stadia growth on Instagram. And then he also gives you milestones or different content creators and other things as well. So yes, you are definitely seeing, and I'm going to leave a link to this below, you are definitely seeing through this extrapolated data that there is growth with Stadia. You can also go to Twitter, as various content creators have said, hey, look, I'm seeing a growing interest and comments being added to some of my older videos. Shout out to Sunny Cloud Gaming, Brian Chappelle of the Nerf Report, and so forth. You are seeing more engagement on Stadia. I'm doing news tracking, and I'm seeing a lot of questions and queries into Stadia after the 2-year anniversary and the celebration. All right. So a lot of Stadia chatter, a lot of buzz. You can look at the stats, you can look at the trends, all that stuff is great to see. So now that we've given you the evidence, let's now talk about the conclusion. All right. Stadia's grassroots efforts, simply put, have been effective. Now, it hasn't been without some bumps in the road, and they continue to fine-tune Google's flagship approach for more gamers. But after seeing such systemic growth consistent in 2021, despite the SG&E controversy and the barrage of negative takes that followed, I think that Stadia is in a good spot to do and succeed even more going into 2022. And I fully expect that we will all see just that. With that said, that's it from your boy. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below, because like I always say, I'm curious what I think. But if you did like what I had to say, check out the links below to follow me. Those links will lead you to the Broadband Bullies, PNTS Network, Hard Knock Digital Culture, and yes, the Stadia Dosage. With all that said, thank you very much. Appreciate and love all of y'all. Have a wonderful gaming day. Peace.